What's up YouTube, Dale here from Zephyr, and today I am bringing you my joint second place Yubel profile. So that's right, I was able to put this deck together and actually give it a run out at locals. I've changed the strategy of it a little bit, doing a lot of research leading up to the format and everything else, and it did do incredibly well. I definitely feel that the way this deck is played now is probably the best way to play it, and that is as a preview involving the Promethean Princess kind of route, and I'll show you how you utilize that as we get through the build as well. I'll also show you my side deck that I took to the local environment. This ended up facing, so my only loss was to my Dolce. I just made a call that I would let my opponent go first. They kept in Secret Village of the Spellcasters and they were able to set that up, which ultimately I just pretty much scooped because I opened up 5 spells. I was like, yeah, okay, I'm not breaking that. So that was a risk and reward scenario. There was a loads of decent matchups. There was a couple of Chimera Illusions running around, Tempires, Voiceless Voice, you name it, and then a couple of road matchups. Annoyingly, my round 1 was the mirror match, which was quite interesting to see, but I was able to kind of come through that one on the other end. Anyway, with all of that out of the way, please smash that like button, hit that notification bell, and subscribe so you don't miss out on any more upcoming content. Diving headfirst into the profile, I would say this lineup is pretty standard. It's triple Spirit of Yubel. Now, I've seen a couple of people that have tried to cut this down to 2. Between this and Nightmare Pain, I feel that they're just both really, really important. A lot of people forget about the battle effect of this one. So in the hand, if they declare an attack, you summon it down. Yes, of course, in the Tempire matchup, it's probably going to be a little bit irrelevant because they might even get into the level 10 by the time they've cleared your board off, meaning you can't activate the effect to summon it. But if they don't do that, this is still an incredibly important card. If anything, there are times where I was like, right, okay, I'll side out a Nightmare Pain if I feel that I need this battle effect. But like seeing this in your hand with nothing else can be a little bit damaging. I can understand why people are going with 2s, but I feel 3 is exactly what you need it because you do need to see it, you need access to it. And because you're playing stuff like Shavara and you're playing the Grey Skimmer, being able to destroy this and then float into a Yubel is actually really, really important. Then for your main, or your second main starter of the deck is Samsara D Lotus. Obviously you combo this off with your main starter of the deck being the Dark Beckoning Beast. I mean, they pretty much come hand in hand. Again, I've seen builds that play a 2 and a 2. I've seen builds that play a 3 and a 3. Personally, for me, a 3 and a 1 is all I really need. And when I'm talking about that, I'm talking about that and the Spirit Gate. I know a lot of people are like, oh, you should be playing 2 Spirit Gates. I hate, like, literally hate opening up. And everyone that says, oh, yeah, but if you open up Spirit Gates and you still combo, it's like, you can't really, though. Because if you play 2 Spirit Gates, right, and you open up Spirit Gates and nothing else, you activate this and they stop you, that's it, okay? Game over. If you just see this, you activate this, you resolve it, you get a Dark Beckoning, you summon down a Dark Beckoning, and then where'd you go? Like, okay, you search out a second copy, but that second copy isn't going to get you another Dark Beckoning. So, you're just going around in a circle, which is why you really want to see the Dark Beckoning Beast. There was no point where only playing one of this came an issue. There was one time throughout the entire tournament of all the rounds I opened this up. Every other time I was wanting to bury it. I didn't want to see it. I want to go Dark Beckoning into it. And a lot of people say, yeah, okay, well, Dark Beckoning eats an Imperm. Very true. But Imperm is probably the only card that will really, really hurt the Dark Beckoning because you still normal summon it, and if they ash you go, okay, cool, whatever. You go additional normal summon, you'll still have that, going for a Samsara D Lotus or anything else. So I know it comes down to personal preference. If you want to play more, you want to play less, by all means do so. But for me personally, a 3 and a 1 has worked out absolutely fine. I've had no issues with it whatsoever, apart from the time when I see this. And even if I see this and I'm playing a second one, all you can do is go gate, normal beast, search out a second gate. Like, that second gate isn't giving you much, it's just giving you that discard fodder. It's like, yeah, okay, cool, but more times than not, the card you want to discard off of this isn't going to want to be the second gates. If anything, you're going to want to discard a Yubel in the hand. Because in the scenario where you go, okay, I've opened up gates, I go gate into a Dark Beckoning, I go Dark Beckoning into a second gate, you're still then going to need to link off the first Beckoning to then get it to the graveyard. And then what you're going to do, just discard the second gate to bring back the Beckoning. Like, what link 2 are you making that's going to be effective for you? Because your Almirage isn't a fiend, so you can't go into Yama. Whereas the only card you're going to want to discard off of the first one of these will be a Yubel or a Spirit of Yubel. That's when it's ideal. But even then, you don't need a second gate to do that. So 1 has worked out perfectly fine to me. The next up is Double Grave Skimmer. Now, I actually was tempted to play this at 3. I kind of flip-flopped between 3 and then 1. I found that 1 just wasn't enough, which is why I bumped it to 2. And then I flip-flopped between 2 and 3. And the reason I ultimately ended up going with 2 rather than 3 is because I did decide in this build to play 2 Yubel. I saw it in my opening hand once, which is the only downside of it. I honestly don't think it's needed at 2. The reason you would play it at 2 is because what you're trying to do there is you're trying to make sure that one of these doesn't get locked under the XYZ, the Valdrath, and if it does, you have another one in rotation. So it's great if you don't see them because you just go, okay, you're going to pop Spirit of Yubel twice at least, and that's going to get you both of these into rotation. So it does come up sometimes to be quite handy, but honestly, I feel that I could very easily just play Yubel at 1 and still get the exact same outcome. So that's where I might consider putting the Grey Screamer up to 3, because it's actually a really, really important kind of combo piece for everything you need to. It's just that nightmare of going, okay, well, I've got 3 Grey Screamers and I see 2 of them. Yeah, it's still not the end of the world because you can go normal summon down the first Grey Screamer and then special summon down the second, which still gets the work in. The 1 Terror Incarnate, pretty standard on this one. I'm not playing Unending Nightmare or the Ultimate Nightmare in the build, in the main deck. I considered siding it, but even then I didn't really feel that I needed to. Maybe it'd be a little bit different when we get Phantom of Yubel, but then I feel the deck changes again a little bit more when we get that. The one card that I did put in here as a last minute, so shout out to Kyron on this, because I was like, do I go Nib at 3, do I go Ash at 3, or do I go Fenrir at 3? And he said go Fenrir at 3. I'm glad I did, because this actually put in a lot of work. Like, it added another form of disruption, just special summoning it down meant that even if my board wasn't that effective, I still had resource for it. And then the best thing about it is where you're arguing about the gates at 2 for that discard fodder, Fenrir gets you that discard fodder anyway. And even if you choose not to use that Fenrir as the discard fodder, you can hold it back. And if you never need to use it and your opponent clears your board off, you just go special summon down Fenrir and go again. So this actually put in a lot of work. It's kind of what tilts this deck to a 42 card deck. But then I also feel that, like I said, I could see myself cutting Yubel back down 1 so it gets down to 41 cards and then adapting it as you see fit from that point on. The last monster is, of course, the 1 Unchanged Soul, Shavara. I actually underestimated this one, so fair play. Unchanged Soul with Shavara in the chamber. I feel, again, with the way that this deck now plays, when you're going to be going through the Promethean Princess, the fact that Princess brings this back and you go, okay, cool, link into the Amberwell and then have the trap card set up, it was all well and good having all of your interruptions on the board then and there, but I actually feel having the graveyard resource is probably a little bit more effective in this particular format, just because, especially in the Tenpai matchup, they're playing so many board breakers. They're like, okay, well, if they break my entire board, like my front row of monsters, at least I have a fallback to bring something back from the graveyard or loot back some resource or anything else along the way. So I'm kind of happy with this. Again, it's a nightmare if you see this more so in your hand. This kind of sucks in your hand, but then sometimes it can be quite beneficial, because if you see this and they try to preemptively imperm your Lotus, or if they imperm specifically on summon the Dark Beckoning Beast, you chain this and it's like, yeah, cool, happy day and dodge. If this was at 3, I think you probably would play it at 3 just because of that dodge ability, and the fact that it destroys it as well is really important. For the spell cards, of course, Triple Nightmare Pain. If I felt I needed the Spirit Hand effect, like the Spirit Hand effect would be effective for me, I would put this down to 2 in the side deck. But one big thing that I learned from this locals, and of course again shout out to Kyron because he played this deck, not the exact same build but a different version of the build, and he just said that he kept running into Cosmics and Ghost Ogres, and that's just the cards of the format right now. They're constantly being able to target it, which is why I didn't put it in this deck, but I'm considering putting it back in, putting back in the Barricade board blocker, because I like the idea of going, okay, cool, do my board, and before I activate Nightmare Pain's effect, if I can, make Barricade board blocker, and then straight away I don't need to worry about Ghost Ogre. This is still, it's your main win con. Like, anyone that is cutting this down to like 1 or 2 in the main deck, and not even, like, I understand siding it because then you're going to be putting in more cards that are more effective or ways to protect this, but like, this is your win con. Like, you have to be playing this. Nightmare Throne, I saw it once the entire day. It was like, ooh, rip. It's really good when you get it, but if you don't see it, you don't get it. So it's just one of them ones, unfortunately. It's very good when you see it. It gets everything going. But more times than not, I think when I saw it the first time, actually I saw it twice. The first time I saw it, I got ashed. I was like, okay, cool. The second time I saw it, it resolved, did everything it needed to, gave me the ability to float and put the work in. So it is that good of a card. It's just a shame you can't search it. I would have loved this to have mentioned specifically Yubel rather than a Yubel monster. And then you could have searched it off of your spirit, but sadly not. Then for the anti-hand traps, I went with 2 Triple Tactic Talents in the main. I don't think I think I used this once to look at my opponent's hand, and I'm glad I did, because when I did, they had a Nibiru, and I was like, right, cool, get rid of that. And that put in a bit of work for me. 2 Pot of Prosperity, never saw it. Probably the argument of it being a 42 card deck, I buried this quite a bit. But the idea is that I can activate this, and then this can lead me into other cards. You do need to be a little bit careful, but I was also only playing 2 Super Poly, and this was something that I changed last minute. Usually I'm on 3 of this. But I went with a 2 and a 1. I'm not sure I'm happy with just 2 of this. I can understand though, because if you open up multiples of this, it will suck. But it's just such a great board breaker. Like, most of the time I was winning the dice roll, or even if I didn't win the dice roll, I had enough to break my board. I think I used Super Poly like once the entire duel. And then when I tried to search it off of this got Ghost Ogre. I was like, bruh. One Call by the Grave, putting a lot of work for me today. One for One, again, actually putting quite a bit of work for me because there were times where I was getting drolled and I was like, okay, cool, I can still Samsara, D-Lotus, get into Spirit. Spirit can then set me the Nightmare Pain and I can still continue to make my plays. And then, of course, I've got the one Eternal Favourite. Pretty standard on that one, really. And then, of course, double Ghost Ogres and triple Imperm were the only hand traps I decided to play. I made the gamble of not playing Nib because I felt so many players at my locals were either going to be able to naturally play around it. And I feel that's why Madolche also did incredibly well. And it's why Illusion also had not a free run at everything, but everyone felt a bit more comfortable playing Illusions because fewer players were actually using Nibiru because it was like, okay, everyone's expecting Tenpai to be there and there was like 4 Tenpai lineups there. And it meant that some of the rogue was like, okay, well, I don't really need to worry about Nibiru as much. I felt that if I had Nibiru, I would definitely put it in the side deck. I'm not sure what I would take out or change yet, and I'll talk you through the side deck when I get to it. But it's something that I do want to consider. Imperm and... I mean, Ghost Ogre I saw it like twice, but both of the matchups I saw it in just weren't effective. So I'm thinking maybe Ghost Ogre goes into the side deck and then Nibiru finds its way into the main deck. But it really depends on the environment. If they're playing around it, then it becomes it becomes more irrelevant. For the extra deck, we play one Jaden and Yubel token because, you know, we have to. One Yubel, the Loving Defender. I did cut this down from 2. I think 1 was more than enough, really, because once you kind of resolve this, you should, more times than not, be leading into game. I only resolved this in the mirror match, and it was only in the mirror match that I ever felt that I needed a second one. Mud Dragon never made it, and then Garura made it once, but these are just your generic super body targets. For Link 2's SP Little Knight, pretty standard on that one. Muckcracker, I made SP a couple of times, Muckcracker once. Yama, you make it all the time. I was suggested to play 2 of this. I ummed about it, and the reason I didn't play 2 of it is because preview I was playing the 1 Anguish, and Anguish actually put in a lot of work today, because there were times I was like, okay, I'll go into Anguish, and then Anguish link off my opponent's monster, so... Unchased Soul of Rage, standing on that one. And then you've got the Promethean lineup, so you've got the Princess into Amberwell, and then there's also the Appaloosa line. So I actually made Appaloosa once today. It was one that as I was going through the rounds, I was like, oh, I'm not going to cut this. But they actually put in a bit of work because you use Yama plus Rage to get into this. And then you've got your Shavara with the trap card set ready to go, and you're basically just setting up another line of protection. And I was trying to play around Super Poly. So throughout the combo, I was able to get Appaloosa, which was a Wind Fairy, with the Amber Whale, which was a Fire Machine, and one other monster. I think it was like a Fenrir. So I was like, okay, cool, I'm safe because I've got a Psychic Earth, I've got a Machine Fire, and I've got a Wind Fairy, and that pretty much did the job for me. Another one that I was playing, of course, was the Gym Buster. You still do this just if you are fearful of Nibiru. There was one time where I decided not to go for this because I wanted to continue my combo and I got Nibiru'd, but I was Nibiru'd with my next play being Appaloosa, and because they did it that way, I had Mature Chronicle to bring back the Yubel, and I was able to set up the Yubel protection with Throne to Flow and the Samsara D-Lotus, which actually worked out really nicely. So this does come out every now and then, but I can see people wanting to cut it. And if you wanted to cut it, the other cards that I was considering that I'm not main decking at the moment is Almirage, but I just felt that this would probably come up more consistently than the Almirage. And then for the XYZs, we've got the one Dreadnought Cannon Gustav Max, followed up by the one Valdris, and then, of course, the one Sky Slayer Typhoon. So this is the other flex spot. Kyron just said he really wished he'd put this in there. So I was like, okay, well, I'll put it in there, see if I need it. I never used this. I never made this. Like, the games just went pretty quickly. And then the Valdris I actually made, like, twice, but I only ever used its negate once. I think it's kind of one of the ones that when you make it, it's pretty much game. But the best thing about this is this can actually lead you to an OTK. So the way it can lead you to an OTK is you make this, and then what you do is in the battle phase, you attack with the Amber Whale, and then you attack with the Valdris, use Valdris' effect to destroy the Amber Whale, and this then floats you into the Princess, and then the Princess completes the game. Because at this point, this will be at least a 3k. So you're going 3k, destroy this, float into Princess, Princess is then 27, swing for the OTK. So it gives you that ability that if your opponent is trying to play a little bit, not slower, but smarter, and not put a monster on the board that you can crash in and deal your damage to, you can actually do it yourself, which is why I think the Promethean Princess is a better way to go. As much as I dislike it because it's not like Yubel at heart, I still think it's the safest way to do it. For the side deck, Triple Draw Lockbird, standard. Double Lightning Storm, one Duster, double Cosmics. Triple Skill Drain. I saw this once, but I never flipped it because I was like, the game, I was still well within control of the game, so I was like, I don't need to flip this and give my opponent knowledge or any other players around the event the knowledge that I was playing this, because some players play it and some don't, but put the work in. And then I went with double Evilly and double D-Barrow because I was undecided as I started, so I decided, right, okay, I'm going to take out one Evilly, take out one D-Barrow, and that will be my extra deck, side deck, sorry. D-Barrier, again, I saw it, but never activated it because I didn't want people to know I was on it. And Evenly, I saw it once. So, yeah, I feel that I just needed a card that helped me break the board going second, which is why I went with Evenly. And I did also toy around with D-Shifter, but ultimately I kind of felt that with the environment I was taking it to, a lot of people were, like, they were on Tempai, and it's like, okay, well, if I'm siding in, I'm putting this in, I have to see this. And ultimately, it never really came up. And then the only time I was tempted to put this in was in the Voices Voice matchup, but I decided to go with Draw instead. I was like, I don't want this and Draw to clash. I know it's a bit of a silly argument because you can't guarantee to open up both, but I was like, if I open up both, I've got to choose one or the other, and I think Draw is just more effective as a balance for all of the matchups than Shifter is. Like, Shifter is an auto win against some matchups, but then I do know that there are some rogue matchups, like Madolche can kind of play around it, and the mirror match, they can play around it. There was a Sprite running around that can technically play around it. So yeah, I decided to go with Draw instead of Shifter. Whether that was the right call or not, I don't really know. I don't think that there was enough to fully give me the outcome that I needed. I still need to test this more and more at a local environment. There's a couple of cards I wanted to change around. But yeah, I just thought I'd do this video, give you a bit of an update, let you know how it went, and then kind of talk you through reasonings behind it, because I feel there are a lot of videos out there that are like, oh, you play this and this, but they don't really explain why. Like, initially when I first saw it, I saw the Promethean Princess, and I understood why, because the idea is, and I'll do this in this video, she'll explain, what you do is, the ideal scenario is that you want to get Yama in the graveyard. Obviously, Yama would search out Savara. I'll just zoom this out a little bit so you can see a bit more of the board. But the idea is, you're going to get Shavara, you're going to use your Grave Scrimmer to bring back a Yubel, you'll pop it with Shavara. You then kind of want to link your Shavara. So for example, you kind of want to link your Shavara with anything else to get you into your Rage. Straight away that gives you the option for Appaloosa, but then you could also use the ability to put these two together and go for your Promethean Princess. Princess, of course, you would set the trap card off your Shavara. Princess would bring back the Shavara, and then you would link these two together and go into your Amberwell. So the idea is that all of your resources now in the graveyard, you've maintained a Yama, so that if they destroy anything by battle card effect, you can use Yama to bring back your Rage. And if they get rid of the Rage, you can use Rage to recycle one of your starters. But then you still also have the trap card that can also bring you back a Rage. So you're threatening Rage twice. So if they imperm it or Dark Ruler it and then get rid of it, you're still good to go. But they still need to get past the trap card. So they need to worry about the trap card, bring this back, do everything you need to. And if that wasn't enough, you then still have Princess, the ability to pop the Amberwell to summon down the Princess. And then you've also got the ability that if another Link monster, a Link 3 or lower on the field is destroyed by battle card effect, you get to banish this and pop one. So what you're doing is you're putting a lot of resource in your graveyard, which I feel is probably like the ideal way of doing it right now, which is also why Shifter isn't the greatest. And when you're siding it out, you change your strategy to be a lot more control. Your idea is you're going to end up going second, you drop Shifter on them, they have to pass their turn back to you. You then try and go for a skill drain play and move it back to your opponent. So that's kind of why Shifter ended up out of the side deck rather than anywhere else. But like I said, I feel you've got a couple of flex spots in the Ogres if they're effective for you, the Fenris as well if they're effective for you. And like I said, I feel the one thing that I was missing, like I didn't really feel that I was missing Ash too much, but I definitely felt like I probably missed the option of having Nibiru. Like just having the option to have it there would probably be more effective, but I feel that kind of comes down to the environment. If your environment is playing Snake Eyes and they can play around it consistently, and if your environment is Tempai and they don't really care about it, then you don't need to worry about it at all. But I felt my environment probably could have done with having a Nibiru in there that might have helped me in a couple of matchups. So yeah. Anyway, that is it for the entire profile. I hope this has given you a bit of an idea on your own build, giving you more of an in-depth kind of breakdown and discussion as to how the deck operates, the way it operates now, and yeah, just going through the Promethean Princess play. You can technically do like a combo. The idea is, like I said, you're already trying to work your way up, but rather than going your Shavara plus your Yama into a Rage, you'd be using Shavara plus any other card to get you into a Rage, and then you've got the option for Appaloosa if you feel that's going to be more effective for you than the Valdreth. And then obviously, off of that, you should have enough materials as well to also try and build back for a Promethean Princess. If you want to see like a test stand video, then by all means, let me know in the comments below. Get the video above 50 likes, and I'll be more than happy to bring that for you. I really do enjoy the deck. I do feel that it's I would like to say it's an underdog deck, but I feel the more and more people think about it and the more and more people know about it, because there is a lot of hype going around it right now, then the less effective it's going to be, or like the less of the unknown factor it's going to have. But when we get Phantom of Yubel, whew, it's going to change it up so much. Anyway, thanks so much for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, share. Till next time, as absolutely always, stay safe and, of course, happy dueling.